Welcome to the show. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the world of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Oh, wow.
And no, we're not talking about the cartoons you might remember from your childhood.
Right.
This deep dive is all about the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game,
TCG.
or TCG for short.
Exactly.
And you've provided us with a bunch of resources aimed at parents, including official rulebooks, tournament guides, and FAQs.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like you're trying to figure out what exactly this Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG is all about, what your child might get out of playing it,
Right.
and maybe even how you can get involved.
Definitely.
So buckle up, because we're going to break down the complexities of this seemingly simple card game, exploring its surprising educational benefits, its vibrant community, and the potential for competitive play, all while keeping it engaging and informative.
All right, let's go.
Okay, first things first. What exactly is the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG? I mean, we know it involves cards, but what's the actual gameplay like?
So imagine a battlefield where fantastical monsters clash,
Okay.
summoned through intricate card combinations. Each card represents a monster, a spell, or a trap, each with unique abilities and effects.
So it's not just about collecting cool-looking cards. There's real strategy involved.
Absolutely. Think of it as a constantly evolving puzzle.
Mm.
Players have to think several steps ahead, anticipating their opponent's moves, adapting their strategies on the fly.
Okay.
You mentioned those rule books.
Yeah.
They lay out a surprisingly deep and complex system.
And it's designed for ages 6 and up, so
Yeah.
it spans a pretty wide age range.
Yeah.
That's interesting, but it also makes me wonder, are younger kids playing a simplified version?
Not really. The
Okay.
core rules are the same for everyone.
Gotcha.
The beauty of the game is that it allows players to engage at different levels of complexity.
Mhm.
A younger player might focus on summoning powerful monsters
Yeah.
for those visually exciting attacks.
Right.
But a more experienced player will be weaving intricate combos, setting cunning traps, and anticipating their opponent's every move.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting to me.
Oh.
The source material keeps highlighting some pretty impressive educational benefits.
It's true.
Right. It might seem surprising, but the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG can actually help develop a child's skills in math, reading comprehension,
Yeah.
and even critical thinking.
All disguised as this fun card game.
Let's break that down.
Okay.
I can definitely see how reading those card effects would require some serious comprehension skills.
Uh-huh.
But what about math?
Okay.
Where does that come in?
Remember those life points we talked about?
Yeah.
Each player starts with 8,000.
Mm-hmm.
Every attack, every card effect impacts those life points.
Sure.
Players are constantly adding, subtracting, multiplying, often mentally and under pressure.
Yeah.
As they become more strategic, they even start factoring in probabilities and risk assessment.
Right.
That's dipping your toes into game theory without even realizing it.
Wow, that's pretty impressive for a card game.
Right.
And the sources also emphasize the social aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Mm.
I mean, it's called a trading card game for a reason, right?
Exactly. Trading is a huge part of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Experience, and not just about getting new cards.
Okay.
It encourages social interaction, negotiation, and even introduces some basic economic principles.
Interesting.
Kids have to research card values, figure out how to make fair trades, and manage their own collection.
Right.
Those are valuable skills that translate beyond the game.
Of course, with trading comes the need for some parental guidance.
Yeah.
I could see how there could be some potential pitfalls for younger kids, especially with online trading platforms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's important for parents to be involved, for sure.
Right.
Setting boundaries, ensuring safe trading practices, and maybe even helping younger children research card values can make a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
The source material stresses open communication and establishing clear rules
Okay.
up front
Yeah.
to make sure everything goes smoothly.
That makes sense.
So we've covered the basics of gameplay and some of the benefits, but the world of Yu-Gi-Oh! Goes beyond just casual play at home. It has this whole organized play structure, right?
That's right. And to be honest, that's the part I'm finding a little intimidating. It feels like there's this whole other layer of complexity once you step into the world of tournaments.
It can seem that way, but it's also surprisingly accessible. Think of it like this. You can start small in. Local tournaments at official tournament stores are a great entry point.
Okay, hold on. Let's rewind a bit. What exactly is an official tournament store? Is this like a dedicated Yu-Gi-Oh! Arena?
Not quite an arena, but you're on the right track. They're typically hobby shops that partner with Konami,
Okay,
the company behind Yu-Gi-Oh!,
right.
to host events and create a welcoming environment for players. Think of it as a hub for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community.
So it's not just kids battling it out in basements. There are actual places where people go to play Yu-Gi-Oh!
Absolutely. And it's not just about competition. Players go there to trade, learn from each other, and just hang out with people who share their passion. It's a social space as much as a competitive one.
That makes me feel a bit better. I was imagining these high-pressure tournaments with hardcore fans. So what kind of events can you actually find at these official tournament stores?
Well, there are different levels of organized play. You've got your local tournaments, which are often casual and great for beginners. Then there are regional qualifiers, which attract more serious players from a wider area.
Regional qualifiers. So this is like the minor leagues of Yu-Gi-Oh!
You could say that. And then above that, you have events like the World Championship qualifier. That's the path to the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championship, the ultimate goal for competitive players.
Whoa, World Championship. That's serious business. Okay, I need to wrap my head around these different levels. Let's start with the local tournaments. What can a kid expect at their first local event?
Local tournaments are often the entry point. They're typically smaller, more relaxed, and a great way to introduce new players to the tournament format. They're also a good place to learn about the different tournament types.
Different tournament types. So it's not just about showing up with your deck and battling.
Nope. The most common is constructed, where players bring their own pre-built decks. But there's also sealed, where everyone gets the same set of booster packs and builds a deck on the spot. It's a real test of creativity and deck building skills.
That sounds like a fun challenge.
Mm.
So how does a parent even get their child started with organized play? What's the first step?
The first step is to find their nearest official tournament store, which they can easily do on the Konami website. Once they find one, they can learn about the event schedule, the different formats, and any age restrictions.
And I'm guessing there's more to it than just showing up with a deck of cards.
Right. There are a few things to take care of. First, your child will need a card game ID. It's like a duelist's passport, allowing them to participate in officially sanctioned events. They can get one online or at any official tournament store.
So it's like getting your driver's license, but for card games. What else?
Well, they'll need to make sure their deck is legal, meaning it follows the forbidden and limited list. This list restricts the number of certain powerful cards to keep the playing field balanced.
Huh. So it's not just about having the rarest cards. It's about strategy and following the rules.
Exactly. And then, of course, there are the practical things. A deck box to protect their cards, sleeves to prevent wear and tear, maybe a playmat to keep things organized. The source material has a whole section on tournament essentials.
That's helpful. Okay, let's say my child has their card game ID, their legal deck, and all the supplies. What's the actual tournament experience like?
It varies depending on the tournament type and the skill level of the participants, but generally it's a structured environment with pairings determined by a system,
Okay.
often Swiss rounds,
Uh-huh.
where you play against opponents with similar win-loss records.
So it's not a free-for-all. There's an actual system to ensure fair matches.
Exactly. And throughout the tournament, there are judges on hand to answer rule questions, resolve disputes, and ensure fair play. The source material emphasizes the importance of sportsmanship and respect for opponents, which is something to keep in mind.
Okay, I'm starting to get a clearer picture of the whole organized play thing. It's more structured and community-driven than I initially thought. But what about those of us who prefer to stay home? Is there a way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitively without actually going to a physical location?
You're in luck! Konami introduced remote dueling, which allows players to participate in officially sanctioned tournaments online.
Wait, so you can duel from the comfort of your own home? That's fantastic. How does it even work?
The most popular platform for remote dueling is Discord. It allows for video calls and screen sharing, replicating the face-to-face experience of a physical tournament.
So you can see your opponent, their reactions, everything.
Exactly. It's a great option for those who might not have access to a local official tournament store, or for those who prefer the convenience of online play.
That opens up a whole new level of accessibility. I'm really impressed with how much thought has gone into creating this whole ecosystem for Yu-Gi-Oh! Players.
Yeah.
But let's shift gears for a moment.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the financial side of things. We've talked about building decks, buying supplies. Is this a hobby that requires a big investment?
That's a valid concern. And the answer is it can be, but it doesn't have to be. There are definitely ways to manage the costs.
Okay, good to know. So where did the cost come in?
The biggest expense is usually building a competitive deck. Some of those rare and powerful cards can be quite pricey. But the good news is you don't need the most expensive cards to have fun, or even be competitive.
So how can parents approach this aspect responsibly? I don't want to discourage my child's interest, but I also don't want to break the bank.
The sources offer some good advice. First, remember those starter decks and structure decks we talked about earlier? They're a great way to get a playable deck without spending a lot of money.
Right, those pre-constructed decks. I remember seeing those. They're much more affordable than buying individual cards.
Exactly. And then encourage your child to explore trading as a way to get new cards. It's a fun way to expand their collection without spending a fortune.
That's a great point. Trading teaches valuable skills too, like negotiation and understanding value.
Absolutely. And it can be a really social activity. Many official tournament stores have designated trading areas where kids can connect and swap cards.
I like that. It's like a built-in community element.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about the chase for those expensive cards. The game itself is incredibly strategic and rewarding, regardless of the rarity of the cards in your deck.
That's a good reminder. Skill and strategy ultimately trump spending power.
Absolutely. And that's a good message to reinforce with your child. It's about the joy of the game, the challenge of outsmarting your opponent, not just having the most expensive deck.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about the journey, not just the destination.
Well said.
And speaking of journeys, we haven't even touched on the parent-child aspect of Yu-Gi-Oh! The sources really emphasize the potential for bonding and shared experiences.
You're right. We've talked about parents supporting their kids, setting boundaries, and helping with trading. But what about actually playing the game together? Is that even a thing?
It absolutely is, and it's something we'll delve into in the next segment. The sources offer some great insights into how parents can engage with Yu-Gi-Oh! Alongside their kids, creating those special moments and memories.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm ready to hear more of how this card game can become a family affair.
So we've covered a lot of ground, the gameplay, the competitive scene, the costs, but what about the parent-child dynamic? It's a theme that runs through all these resources you've provided.
It's true, and I have to admit, that's what initially drew me to Yu-Gi-Oh! I saw my kid getting so much out of it, and I started to wonder if there was a way for me to join in, to connect with them on that level.
And that's what's so fascinating about these sources.
Yeah.
They don't just advocate for parents being on the sidelines. They suggest active participation, learning the game, maybe even building your own deck.
Yeah.
It's about bridging that generational gap through a shared interest.
I like that idea, but I also feel a little intimidated.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't played a card game in years. Where would I even begin?
Start simple.
Okay.
Ask your child to explain the basics. Watch them play a few rounds.
Don't worry about mastering every rule right away. Just focus on the flow of the game, the types of cards, the overall strategy.
So dip my toes in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Waters before taking the plunge.
Exactly, and as you get more comfortable, you can start asking questions, maybe even suggest strategies.
Yeah.
It's about showing genuine interest, letting your child be the expert and guide you.
And who knows, maybe I'll discover a hidden talent for card games.
Right.
I could be the next
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Champion.
You never know, but even if you don't reach those competitive heights,
Yeah.
there's so much to gain from simply playing together. It's about those moments of connection, the shared laughter, the friendly competition.
That's what I'm really drawn to, those moments where you're both fully engaged in something, learning together, having fun together.
And those shared experiences can lead to some truly special moments. Imagine the pride you'd feel seeing your child teach you a new strategy,
Oh yeah,
or the excitement of pulling off a well-timed combo together.
I can see how those shared victories could be incredibly bonding.
And even the defeats can be valuable.
Mm.
It's an opportunity to model good sportsmanship, to show your child how to handle a loss gracefully and learn from it. Those are life lessons disguised as card game moments.
That's such an important point. It's not just about winning or losing. It's about learning resilience, strategy, problem-solving skills that translate beyond the game.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the creative aspect. Building a deck together can be incredibly rewarding. It's like a collaborative puzzle figuring out which cards work well together, crafting a strategy.
I can see how that would appeal to both kids and adults. It's a chance to be creative, to strategize, to work together towards a common goal.
And it opens up so many opportunities for conversation. You can talk about the different cards, their abilities, the stories behind them. It's a chance to learn about your child's interests, their thought processes, their problem-solving skills.
It's amazing how much depth and complexity there is to this seemingly simple card game.
That's the beauty of Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's a world of possibilities waiting to be explored, and it can be a truly enriching experience for both children and parents.
Well, you've definitely convinced me. I'm ready to dust off my inner duelist and give Yu-Gi-Oh! A shot.
That's fantastic to hear. And remember, it's not about being an expert or winning every duel. It's about connecting with your child, sharing a passion, and maybe even discovering a new hobby you can enjoy together.
So there you have it, folks. The Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. More than just a game. It's a gateway to quality time shared learning and maybe even a little friendly competition with your kids.
And remember, the best card in your deck is the one that brings you closer together.
That's a wrap on our Yu-Gi-Oh! Deep Dive. We hope you've enjoyed this journey into the world of card games, strategy, and parent-child bonding.
Until next time, keep those decks sharp and those family bonds even stronger.